You know what this is? It's humps. This is hump day. Hey, I am Sandra Funk. This is Design Sips. It's Wednesday. It's 4 o'clock. I've missed y'all. Cheers.
Cheers.
I almost cheersed my candle.
That's true.
Cheers.
Hey. Hello,
Just
friends.
getting started. Sorry we're running a little late.
Tell all
All of a sudden
today.
it's 4 o'clock. Like, what's happening? Hi y'all. Oh, let's take a minute and have one more sip of wine because it's been one of those days where you were like, whoa, wait, it's 4:15.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers again.
Cheers. We are drinking a Chardonnay, right? It's a
We
nice
are.
Chardonnay that you...
I am super broken. I just tried to check the label on the glass. That says Design Sips, thanks Campbell. This says Le Chevalier Chardonnay. It's yummy. But any wine on hump day at 4 o'clock would be yummy. Am I right?
Yes.
All right, give me a heart if you're having a cocktail with me and a thumbs up if you just wish you were, okay? Just so I know who's out there.
Yeah. And tell us why we were having such a crazy day. What were we filming all day?
We were filming. So we nailed down Module 0 of the standard. And what is Module 0, you say? It's a completely free module that walks you through your design project structure, and it's a great example of what's behind the big scene of the standard. It's a great little taste. So that will be available for all in the coming months, and it'll be, again, a great way to see what's really going on behind the doors of the standard.
Yep, and they can jump on our trade list at any point if they want to.
Yes, House of Funk up in the corner, look for trade. That is where you can sign up for the email list. Tons and tons of downloads and information and templates on running a joyful and efficient interior design business right there if you sign up now, and then it'll keep you up to date as we get closer and closer to launch.
Cool.
And that is why I'm like,
But you look.
I swear we just started drinking.
Jazz
This is all
like
new.
always. It is.
Thank you.
I
I have on more makeup than the Real Housewives from the day of filming.
But you can't see it this side. It looks so good.
It's crazy how much you have to put on to not look dead on camera. Just saying. Okay,
Okay.
I digress.
Yes, today we are talking about design agreements and why they're the cornerstone of your business. We always love to hear from you guys, so DM or comment your questions at any time. You've got us captive. So Sandra, I love when you tell us the purpose of your design agreement is twofold: to walk clients through how you work and to legally protect your process and proprietary assets. Want to tell me a little bit more about both of those?
Absolutely. So my design agreement is both educational, walking the client through the process, and legal. So so much of what my old contract used to look like is like a really legal document that nobody read, and then a bunch of marketing material about working with House of Funk and the process that no one also read. So now I've created one document that walks the client through the entire process, legally binding us to that process. So not only does that give me the onus, and it's also shifted my process to 100% walk my clients through my contract each and every time I meet with them. Now, I used to think that meant I had to read them a 10-page contract, and that nauseated me. And then I curled up in a small ball and said no. Then what we realized was that we created a really beautiful sales presentation that says exactly what the legal document says in a more colorful and welcoming kind of way. It's not short, it walks through the whole process, it walks through payment terms, it walks through business structure, it walks through timelines, but while not short, it's not like nauseating, like they just check out and they're not paying attention. Also, I know from experience, handing someone a 10-page document and thinking they're going to read it themselves from cover to cover and fully digest it is asking too much. So walking them through it and having a contract that you feel comfortable walking a client through is key.
Cool. And we're going to talk through those points in just a minute, but take me back a little bit. Why did you feel like you need to pull over and restructure that agreement? Who helped you with it? What were some of the things that you guys touched on?
What's that story? So I was in business probably 10 years when I just hit a wall. I was at a point where it felt like I was always running like it never felt like the projects were on time. It always felt like I didn't have enough money to execute the full design, enough budget in the project. I also felt like I was constantly having an internal battle with time billing and design fees and getting paid, and when somebody was late on getting me a check, do I put the project on hold, but then I've got timelines I'm trying to work on. Like the balance and the juggle of it all was so overwhelming and was taking up way too much headspace, where what I want to worry about and what I want to do my beautiful dreaming and scheming and be thinking about at night while I'm in dream mode is beautiful designs, not accounts receivable. So I pulled over and I vowed to myself that I was not going to sign one more client until I straightened out my project structure, my business structure, my fee structure, my payment structure, my timelines, all of it. So I took a 3-month break on signing new clients. I obviously continued working with the ones I already had. But during that time, I hired a business strategist, a lawyer, and a coach. And we think tanked. We looked at inside of our industry. We looked outside of our industry. We looked outside of our industry more than inside of our industry because sometimes those models are more clear and objective rather than our subjective, the old story that we tell ourselves about how it's done in interior design. So we came up with a project structure that from then on, every client I signed, the clients were happier. They held their budgets like more, they had much more control over how much they wanted to invest in a project. And then we put so much structure in place on like what it really takes timeline wise and examples of what it really takes investment wise to execute great design, so that there wasn't this disconnect anymore of coming in on time and on budget. Now, on time and on budget is a must. It's built into our process. It's not possible to not come in on time and on budget because we are setting realistic timelines and we are setting realistic investment estimates together with the client at the beginning.
Cheers. All right. I have a question. And then also, hello, Peter, who just joined.
Hi,
Peter. Cheers. Okay. Elite Decor says, do you offer help to designers that are struggling in that area? So yes, that's where you need to be on the trade list.
Yes. And yeah, please check us out, houseoffunk.com/trade, or just houseoffunk.com, and there's a trade button off on the side. Sign up there. Stay in touch. We do design sips live like this, where we drink wine and talk about the business of design once a month. And then we are launching the interior design standard, where we literally give you every template, every detail, every single thing that we have figured out and strategized and paid lawyers and consultants and taken classes and all of it. We hand it all to you this spring. Is it spring?
Yeah. I know.
This spring in the design standard. So we can't wait. But in the meantime, tons and tons of resources, tons of our YouTube channel is filled with videos talking about all of the ways that we do everything. There's tons of resources to download. If you get on our email list, you get a kind of a welcome letter that gives you all the downloads and catches you up if you've not been on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just wanted to have you add, you have this great line about how once you think tank that new design agreement, you had it vetted with your insurance agent. Tell me a little bit about how it's like so sound and bulletproof, like it really hits those marks.
Well, that's what took 3 months, right? So first you take how you were working before and you crumple it up and throw it out the window, clean sheet of paper. What would make the client happy? What would make me happy? What would focus the attention on the outcome and on design and not on the difficult struggles and the timelines and the budgeting and things like that. And then once we had a draft together, again, really working tightly with strategy coach and lawyer, once we had that draft together, it was taking it and going back to our insurance people and going back to our trades and going back to our clients and basically pounding on this agreement for years before we were able and confident and comfortable to share it with the world. So it's been vetted every which way since Friday, and it's been banged on by clients and ourselves and trades and vendors and project timelines and all of it. It's really tried, true, tested, and it's truly incredible. It's a situation where it allows you to come to a negotiation and an agreement with a client at the beginning of the project and then focus on design for the rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
cheers to that. Give us a thumbs up if you are, seeking an agreement that lets you do that.
Exactly.
Okay, now walk me through, you mentioned that you don't have to memorize your design agreement. So walk us through when you're meeting with the client, everything from how you bring sort of a templated version with their info filled in to the meeting to let them digest, and then where it goes from there.
Correct. So we take that design agreement. So first of all, we vet all of our potential clients before I go out and meet with them. We have a script that we kind of make sure that we run through with them that gets the important information that we need and also tells them a bit about our firm, making sure that we are lining up as a good potential fit. If we are, then Ronnie sends me out to visit this potential client. Again, I only go on potential client calls with people that really fit our ideal client avatar. So by the time I'm ringing that doorbell, standing on their cold front porch, I can't wait to meet them. I can't wait to tell them about my firm. I can't wait to hear about their project. The synergies of location, project budget, scope, home value seems to be lining up with our clear avatar of who we like to work with. So I don't charge for that consultation, but I come very prepared to educate and learn. So that first one is more about listening, really trying to get inside that client's head, have them walk me through their house, have them show me everything. And then I take a turn and I go through our design agreement. So when I'm going through the design agreement, I have a physical copy of my design agreement with any information I can fill out about this client filled out. So if we know the scope is going to be 3 rooms, if we know their address and the names and It's as filled out as it can be with their information, doesn't have any fees in it yet. I give that copy to them to be able to read it through. We have a lot of clients who are lawyers or are very detailed and will read that through. So this gives them time between this meeting and the next meeting where they'll get the numbers to ask any questions or review any details. And then I have, kind of a beautiful marketing one sheet that goes over our process that I leave with them as well. And then I go through on my iPad the entire presentation that literally walks me through section by section through my design agreement, but in a beautiful and concise way. I walk them through that, and at the end of all that, I take a whole bunch of measurements. I take a whole bunch of notes on their preferences and what they're looking for. We always say we start with how a client wants to feel in their space. And so we're really looking to capture that when we're there and just get a general sense, right? We're all looking for red flags. We're looking for those standout fit, something that feels great. And then the next part of that process is to have them into my office within a week and give them kind of the full design fee and furnishings estimate approximation and all of that.
But I think what's great about our process is that by leaving that agreement with them, they show up at the meeting and they're really focusing on discussing the numbers with you. Yep. And sort of no one's redlining the agreement or having questions.
Correct.
Which makes that proposal meeting really smooth and
Yes, so in my presentation of my design agreement, I literally go through everything. How I get paid, when I get paid, what the timeline is, what the phases are. I mean, if they're going to be giving me 100% deposit or 50%, I go through all of that. So I think they're only diving into that agreement if they are a person who needs to read the words on paper. That's like a learning style thing. Everyone does it different. We've now talked it through. There's a visual, and then they can read it. Yeah. So I tend to have clients come to that pitch really educated on what the process is and on what they're going to be learning. But I have to tell you, almost every time, when I give them 2 sets of numbers, I give them my design fee and I give them a furnishing estimate. And always we have to re-clarify that furnishing estimate is just a guess based on historic averages of what clients have spent in the past on a room of your size and with a scope similar to yours. And that is the one that's malleable and changeable and can be customized to you. The design fee is a flat fee. It's what it takes to work with House of Funk, but the budget we set together at the end of the first phase. I give them an estimate at that time based on historic data because I need to know if we are so out of not on the same page. So I need to know if you meant to spend $5,000 and I think this room needs 50 to be complete, we need to have that conversation right at the beginning. It would be really unfortunate to have them pay a flat design fee and then wait 2 months for the conceptual design and then find out that their budget doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrea Cruz was just saying, please save this for future reference. It's so informative. And you can head to our YouTube channel where a lot of our Design Steps episodes live, and you can catch up and binge watch if you are so inclined.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Hello to Montclair Design Week.
Hi.
All right, so Sandra, talk to me a little bit more about how the agreement also like protects your proprietary assets. And so this sort of dives into your fee structure and sort of how you set up payment and what that looked like in protection of your design work.
Yes. So basically, we are paid in full for our design fee prior to our first presentation. And the reason for that is that our designs are intellectual capital. So once we've given someone the design and we've given them the idea, you know, a lot of our design work has to do with like innovative floor planning or like a different way to use a space. So you can't take that back, right? If someone doesn't end up paying their bill, you know, a couple days after the presentation, or they want a bunch of changes and they decide that they're going to hold back on that payment until they see the changes, like it's all happened. I've been here for a long time, and it's amazing when the client hasn't paid according to your terms that they now feel like if there's a little slip, you give them an inch, they take a mile kind of thing. So what I find is if it's all very clear up front that our final payment of the design fee is due prior to the first presentation, and the reasoning behind that is that it's intellectual capital. Design is ideas until we go into execution. It's just very clear and obvious.
Yeah. Great. So this is a great topic to touch on, whether to present the agreement in person or via email, which we have talked extensively about.
Yes. I think we always say our close rate on email proposals is 0%. It's just a terrible idea. And we've gotten into a situation where the schedule is locked up and somebody's traveling and it's like busy season and, you know, it's travel season and everybody's busy, and I can only tell you one thing: wait. Mm-hmm. It's better to wait and sign the client later than to send the agreement in a timely manner and not sign the client at all. There is something about sitting down together, talking it through, working it through. It's just the first time they see those numbers, it's really important that you're sitting across the table, holding space for them, answering questions, gauging reactions, you know, calmly letting them know we can do this in phases. We can, you know, we can do the whole thing. We can adjust budgets. We can decide not to renovate. We can just decorate. We can, you know, just knowing that if there is a hesitation, and if you're paying attention, you can see it, that you can pivot and you can be ready for that pivot. I often find that first project with a client is sort of the way to open, and then, you know, usually we start to roll through the house rather quickly at that time. But yeah, I think it's hard for clients who have not done it before to understand what it costs to do full service interior design. So I find that in person, sitting down is best.
Yeah, and I have, I think, a great example. And you know, you mentioned that even your ideal dream client still sometimes has a hard time wrapping their head around what a room costs. And we had a client for whom all of the rooms, they all made sense, and then the small foyer was sort of confusing. And in person, you were able to break that down and explain the paint and then the wallpaper and this.
Yes.
So maybe talk us through like an example of...
Sure. So I think a lot of times just seeing numbers on a page without context, it's hard to imagine. So when I meet in person and I present those numbers in person with someone, I can say, well, foyers often include all the floors going up when they're open like this and connected. So when I'm doing a budget, I think about a runner going all the way to the third floor, or I think about a wall treatment going all the way up. I would never switch out lighting only on your first floor and not have it coordinate all the way up into the upper floor. So a lot of the homes we work on are old historic, 3-story, big center staircase, and foyers can get very expensive because it really is foyer and all the hallways related. So that little bit of talking it through goes from how could you possibly get that number in this little tiny foyer, we barely have room for a center table, to oh, okay, that's all the walls, all the runners, all the lighting, all the art, all the accessorizing, all the way up, so that it all flows together.
Yeah. And I don't think we touched on it in the design agreement and our furnishings estimate. Talk to them about how you will work with the client and if it sort of falls with that 20% range.
Yes, so it's really important. We have a place in our agreement that also talks about if you're more than 10 or 20% below our historic averages, we then need to talk further about what that looks like. So does that mean I should design the space up to its greatest potential and you will maybe decide, to allocate more budget than you realize to it? I mean, do you want to see the room designed to its utmost potential and then we'll address how to handle that? Or is that budget absolutely firm? It's real money in a bank account somewhere that is set aside for this project. There's not a penny more, and we need to cut scope to make that budget work. Because when you try to guess what a client wants to do when they're setting a budget, you have a 50-50 chance of having that right. So I've had situations where I've designed up to the investment estimate that we set together, and the client was like, but I thought you were talking about window treatments and this and that, and I was like, but the budget didn't allow for it. And they were like, well, there might be more money, I just need to see if it's worth it. Well, I didn't know. Okay, I thought when we set a number, we set a number. And then other times we design the room and say, yes, and you'll use as much of the budget as you want towards this. And they're like, why would we set a number together if it's not a real firm number? So I find that clarifying that really shows them that you've been there, done that, you've seen it all, you've tried it a whole bunch of different ways, and you really need to understand what they're looking for from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Another talking point is that the agreement just clearly lays out that we charge commercially reasonable retail prices. You can mention that, maybe the Starbucks story,
Yes. Yeah. So I think, so our design agreement outlines that we are a flat design fee and all purchasing and execution goes through our firm. And so when I get asked anything specific about purchasing, I say, yes, we are contractually beholden to be reasonable retail. You're not paying above retail for us. We are a to the trade vendor, and we have, long-term relationships with incredible furniture makers and all the vendors and trades. And because we have these long-term relationships, we have great buying power. So that buying power is where we have a business and not a hobby, right? It's how we stay in business. It's how we're sure that we're going to be here in 10 years to make sure that if you call us and say, can I get another, I need to get another chair or do another room, that we'll still be in business. So, and that's that. That's as simple as it is. And we have I know you said Starbucks story, but I can't remember that one. But I have a tire story that I'll tell you. Being a tire heiress, not a tire heiress.
Almost.
Hashtag not a tire heiress. So I went and got a new tires, I can't even remember, on my car. And I checked out, paid my bill, blah, blah, blah. So I'm reviewing the invoice when I was paying, and it's $50 labor, $400 tires. And I'm like, sign. So I get in the car and I'm driving away. And I know, and I just was thinking about it, it's like an analogy, right? So I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, I know that guy did not spend an entire fixing, rotating, and putting on new tires for $50, right? He had $50 in labor, and then he made money on selling me those tires, because it's not like you're gonna go get tires and then you're gonna go find someone to install tires. You go to a shop that has someone who can install tires and tires for sale. They are providing a service and the product that goes with that service when you need it, and in the timeliness and in the location where you need it. So you're not running all over town, right? I wish they did this with lights and light bulbs. But anyway, and there's no part of me that thought that he made $50. And that paid for that whole overhead and the lifts that the cars go up on and all of that. I know that he buys those tires wholesale and sells them to me at retail and makes the spread. And he makes a service charge for installing the tires. How is that different than interior design? We could see our service charge as our design, the intellectual capital, right? All of what goes into interior design, that alchemy, that special mix of putting a whole room together, in combination with the physical items that need to go into that room to make that design a thing, right? You can't be a guy who fixes your tires and changes your tires without tires. Well, you can't be an interior designer without furniture and furnishings and window treatments and all of that. So the question that I have is, where did it all go so crazy that we are not like any other business in the world, where we both provide a service and the physical things that are related to that service?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Give us some thumbs up. We've got some thirsty viewers. We have a question too.
Mm-hmm.
So Thrive Design Studio asked, will you give an example using ballpark numbers for a master bedroom design? So
yes, so that is one of the things that we dig into inside of the standard, because we really did case studies where we talked about my personal experience is 15 years owning my own business, 20 years in the interior design industry, 15 miles from Manhattan. But that would not jive with a brand new designer in Milwaukee, or wherever. So within the standard, we do case studies where we do go through that, but we're kind of showing you, maybe it's someone in Manhattan with 5 years experience and someone with 25 years experience, and then someone in the middle of the country with 30 years of experience. And we kind of show you how that works via case studies. And that way you can play with seeing yourself within that metric, but it's more detailed than just throwing out a few numbers. I don't have them on the top of my head. I'm not someone who memorizes things that I don't need later. They kind of are gone, no room for that. And also, again, it gets more specific than that. So it's a little bit, it's a formula. And my finance degree and my business process background have me kind of
definitely jump on the list
because that's where it's all going. That you could really see yourself. You could really get those metrics nailed down, and you can literally turn around proposals within an hour once you have this down and you really feel, and you can check your data, right? So you can check your fee and then you can check it against a fee you actually proposed, knowing the square footage and knowing the level of furnishing that you did for the room. So this is really doable. It's just a matter of getting you that concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is in the standard.
Yes.
Yeah, you said that. Not the list.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's in the standard, but you can get on the list to hear more.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so another thing that I think is really great and cool about our design agreement, talk me through the section about publicity where we just have them check right then and there, so that later when we're shooting, we don't have to...
Yeah, there's so many things that we were that we later are going back to get approval from a client. Can we put a yard sign up? Can we photograph your job? Do you want to be in the photos? Are you willing to be interviewed? All of that is now just built into the agreement. And as we go through life and we realize we need more things, it's the perfect place to hold all of that. So at the beginning of a project, we have all of those conversations. We check all of those boxes. If anything, if they miss something in our agreement, we send it through EverSign, and it's a requirement to go through all of those things before they can click and sign and be done. If they're going to sign physically in person, we flag it so that we know where we're looking. It just is and then if you can think about anytime something else comes up, that's where it lives. Just set that tone at the beginning of the project. It's so clean and clear.
Yeah, and I agree. And then also we make sure to occasionally touch base with our lawyer and check that any additions, revisions, changes we've continued to make are still staying true to what is legally sound.
Correct. Yeah, we don't make any revisions without checking in with her, but if we're we noticed we needed to cross that T and dot that I, then that's fine. Yeah. But anytime we go back, stay in touch with that lawyer. You need them.
They're worth their weight in gold.
Yep.
Another thing that we can talk about is this is sort of in relation to payment terms and custom orders. I love your story about the sort of based around Toby Fairley, if after placing the order you don't want
I think I've said this and I'm going to say it again. I have so many incredible people in this industry that I've learned so much from Toby Fairley, payment terms, to Kimberly Seldon's Trade Day. We all love you. We're all using Trade Day. To Luann's decision to be excellent. I could go on and on. I just there are so many great mentors, and I think what you'll see is that the standard is the distillation of what we believed has been the best of all of it, distilled down and tried, true, tested in the field. Okay, circling back. Toby Fairley has this amazing line. She said, I take 100% up front for all furnishings, because if that sofa comes in, that apple green sofa comes in and you decide you don't want it, I can assure you that neither do I. And I just think I heard that on one of her podcasts. She's got an incredible podcast, Design You. Way back when, one of my favorite quotes of hers, and I, to this day, will quote her. I think it's been in my FAQs for years, that is Toby's line. So thank you for that, Toby. I couldn't agree with you more. And thank you. So thank you to those who came before.
Yep. And another thing we can talk about is how with our client proposal, we have the agreement ready for them to sign in person, but if they need time to crunch on it, we send them an electronic version.
Exactly. So we're ready to go. The agreement's all filled out and everything is ready to roll right in that first meeting, and we love it when our clients sign on right then and there. Very, very exciting. At which point we jump right into project process and getting their project scheduled out. But if they do need to sleep on it, crunch on it, go back, look at finances, look at timelines, look at schedules, we will send them all of what that proposal is electronically. So we use EverSign. It's really great because it forces them to kind of go through every step of the proposal, and we will send them a link to purchase the design fees via credit card. So we're 50% of the design fees to kick off the project, 50% due prior to the first presentation.
Yep, and then I am just checking on
Sarah
Yes.
Aberlich.
Aberlich?
Yes, Aberlich.
Hi, George. Mwah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And then this is a little minor thing, but I think it's a smart detail. We added in that if when we initially spoke to the homeowner, we didn't capture both homeowners, we
Contact information.
Yeah, and you can delete or keep it in as needed.
So very important. I always say to my clients, I need all decision makers signing that agreement and present for all decision-making meetings. So decision-making meetings would be the conceptual design, detailed design meetings, and any revisions that come after where there's decisions to be made. And I also really prefer when I can have both decision makers in the design questionnaire kickoff meeting. That is one where if they can't both be at that meeting, I really want them to fill out the questionnaire together, and then I'll just meet and talk through it with at least one of the decision makers. It's incredibly helpful to see and to have everyone in the room when they're making big decisions. And full service interior design is big decisions. We're talking about rooms in the tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes the hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is not the kind of thing where someone's going to sign off and tell their other decision maker partner later. They're going to need buy-in from both parties. So for the sake of efficiency, and also for any questions that come up to be handled right in that moment, we really, really ask that they have all decision makers present. It is so worth taking a little bit more time to schedule out that meeting. I also highly recommend scheduling out those meetings at the very start of the project. If you can set those big 4 meetings together, conceptual and a hold time for a revision, detailed design, hold time for a revision, what are the chances that you can't get 4 meetings on the calendar that are like 2 and 4 months out? If you can hold that space and have them show you the respect that you deserve, you're spending 8 months of your life working on their project. Hold that space, meet together, talk through any concerns, really, take the time to show this project the time it deserves.
Yeah. And what about when a client that you're working with decides to add scope? How do you handle that? Do you have a whole new agreement? Tell me about that.
I love scope creep, and I love how our design agreement handles scope creep. So scope creep to me means I've got a client that I already know and love and understands me and I understand them, and we're going to increase our work with them. That's always good news for me, as long as we do our full process around the additional scope. When we try to sneak it in on the current timeline or the current furnishings estimate, that is when it becomes a problem. So if you can say, oh my gosh, we would love to do this additional room, let me get you the design fee related to that, the furnishings estimate related to that, and a schedule of meeting dates to execute that, you are clearly saying, I can't wait to work with you. I'm thrilled that you want to increase scope, but not saying I'm a magician and I can tap a wand and somehow squeeze that in. It's a beautiful thing. Thank them effusively. Send them that additional design fee and schedule those additional meetings and give yourself the due time and budget that it deserves to execute.
Yeah. Cheers. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. All right, cheers.
Does anyone else have any design agreement questions or related?
I have one other thing related
Okay.
to scope creep. The best way to make scope creep not awkward in that you're going to assess a new design fee is to go ahead and outline any other rooms that aren't complete in their house that they might want to add later. Go ahead and get the details on those. Put a proposal together for each of those rooms and let them sit in the client portal. That way, everyone knows that there's a fee associated with scope creep and it's clear to them what that is. You give the power back to that potential to the client to make the decision to add another room. You also don't have to awkwardly figure out how to say, we'd love to do another room. I I am going to need to charge you for that, right? It's been set up as a precedent in the beginning. It's very clear, and it's, I think, a very nice way to outline reality. All right?
I agree.
Cool.
Yep. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
And then before we go, tell them, I'm not sure if we can understand the magnitude of in the standard, you are taking this agreement of yours that your lawyer refined, business consultant, and you're giving it to them to literally just fill in.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not even like a PDF that you're gonna have to be inspired by or retype for that matter. It is a swipe file. You get every word, you get the entire structure, and then with the standard, I will walk you through exactly how to run that process. I will show you how to use the fee calculator to get to that exact number. I'll show you how to do a full 6,000 square foot home proposal in 1 hour. That is the value of pulling aside, think tanking it, working it out, doing the analysis, doing the calculations, and now we've been using it this way for years and we just love it.
yeah. And you're sharing it because you really believe in it.
Oh yeah, I feel like that can't just be for this one firm. We really put so much effort into it, I feel like. So I've been speaking to friends and designers and, you know, when I'm out and about in the world, and over and over and over again, this has become a conversation that I have with other designers where they're like, I would buy a copy of your contract. Can you send me, can I? And finally I was like, I think this is a place where we can help the entire industry. So that's the gig.
It is. All right. Cheers
Rise
to
designers
that.
rise. Cheers. Okay, so this was hump day. It was almost 4 o'clock. It was so close. I'm Sandra Funk from House of Funk, and I would love to see you. houseoffunk.com/trade. Stay in touch with me, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers.